chairman of the Vision Fund Committee meeting. So I guess first item of business is, I guess, introduce new members of the committee to us and to everybody else. So I guess we'll start here with Jade and go on.
Definitely. I'm Jade Scher. I'm learning. Okay. I'm Jade Scher. I'm excited to be here. I own a marketing agency called Hexahive, and so for me, I was drawn to Vision Fund Committee because I see a lot of growth that happens in businesses in the day-to-day, so excited to kind of see how economic development on this side happens.
Do you want to introduce yourself and go around? We just go around everybody? Yeah.
I'm Andrea Peterson. I previously was involved in economic development in Minnesota, and now I'm a mom of 4, and I work for the North Dakota Envirothon, and then I enjoy the Vision Fund.
I'm Mike Freilich. I'm the founder and head brewer at Laughing Sun Brewing Company. Been on the Vision Fund Committee for 3 years, maybe, something like that. I'm a participant in the Vision Fund. Laughing Sun is a Vision Fund recipient, so we're on the list there. Yeah, interested in economic development as well and trying to make this place a better place. So.
Joel Sumer, new to the Vision Fund as well. Born and raised here in Bismarck, so have a vested interest in the community and just want to see our businesses and community grow. So that's all I got.
All right. Election of officers, do we have a nomination process for that, or?
Committee member Freilich, in the past, the practice has simply been to either ask for volunteers or call for a motion.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll ask for volunteers. Anybody like to chair the committee? I mean, I will volunteer if necessary, but yeah, we'll give everybody else a chance to if they want to. But.
I'll nominate Mike as the chair.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a nomination and a second to vote myself, Michael Freilich, as chair of the Vision Fund Committee. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Yeah, right on. All right. So approval of meeting minutes. If you've all, I don't know if everybody has meeting minutes. If you don't, you can certainly. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I can interrupt, Mr. newly elected chairman.
Yes.
You may consider a vice chair as well in case you are not here to get the meeting.
Very good point. I would take volunteers for any vice chair.
I'll be the vice chair.
All right. Anybody else? I would make a motion, Andrea Peterson being vice chair of the Vision Fund Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Andrea Peterson, congratulations. Thank you. So I guess now we can run approval of the minutes. So if you've had time to approve the minute or review the minutes from last time, if anybody has any discussion on that, anything like that, I guess I would ask for a motion of approval of minutes from that last meeting.
I'll move to approve them, the meeting minutes.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. A second. I can second if necessary. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Same. I think we're all there. So motion approved on the minutes. Financial statements, I was told we are not going to have financial statements. Dimitri's in a meeting, so nothing has really changed from the last meeting. So I think we're basically the same numbers for those of us that were here last time. And for those of us that you knew, I believe, do we have access to those via link if they want to see that? Or
I believe typically the financials get included with the minutes.
okay.
If they were distributed
Okay.
at the last meeting, they would be
Okay.
appended to the agenda packet along with the minutes.
Very good. All right. So since we've done that and everybody's seen that, I guess we would move on to Vision Fund 101 presentation. I believe that's Nathan. And we've got a little packet here that was included, so.
I need to turn it on. Good afternoon, Vision Fund Committee members. For those of you that don't know me, I don't think everybody does, but Nathan Schneider, Vice President with the Bismarck Manhattan Chamber EDC. Prior to the meeting, some of the city staff and I visited and thought that it would maybe be a good idea to provide kind of a Vision Fund 101, if you will, especially for our new members, but also for our returning members, maybe just a bit of a review and refresh on the Vision Fund itself. You have the presentation that we put together in front of you. And I'll just kind of go through this this presentation here and walk you through just kind of the ins and outs, the history of the Vision Fund, how it came to be, where it's gone, and where we think that it's going. So going back to the early 90s, in the early 90s, the North Dakota legislature approved a bill that allows cities and communities across the state to provide their own home rule charters and as part of that could create job development authorities. And so there were a number of communities across the state. There are very few actually that don't have a job development authority, but a lot of communities across the state that created job development authorities that would allow communities to access tax revenue for economic development and economic development projects. And so that's really where the Vision Fund stemmed from in the early 90s. You can see in 1991, the first project was funded, even kind of before there was a formal Vision Fund. There was a project that was funded, that was U.S. Healthcare. For those of you that have been around the community for a long time, U.S. Healthcare was a call center. It eventually turned into Aetna, which eventually turned into CVS. I think at its height, I think it employed over 600 employees. I think overall you could consider it a fairly overwhelming success in terms of just return on investment for the community and for the Vision Fund. In 1995, the Vision Fund was officially created, formalized and created. You can see just a few of the highlights up there. And the reason I put a couple of those projects on there is just kind of to draw your guys' attention to the fact that the Vision Fund, while being a Bismarck fund, has traditionally also looked outside the community to provide funding to projects outside of the community of Bismarck. And you can see a couple of them on there. I've highlighted those. I think the key to those projects getting funded and the key to maybe future projects getting funded that aren't located in the city of Bismarck is that the projects would provide evidence of community impact specifically to the city of Bismarck. So I don't know if it's up there. No, it's not. But one of the projects that we provided funding to was a company called Activities for Learning. They essentially make homeschool math books, and they're based out of Little Hazelton, not even actually in Burleigh County. But they came to us. They said, we want to utilize the Vision Fund for the local match. That we can provide evidence that we provide this community impact to the community. They showed all of the dollars that they spend in terms of shipping and travel and all of those things, and ultimately were approved. And so I just wanted to draw your attention to those few projects that maybe aren't necessarily located in the city of Bismarck. Between the years of 2005 to 2010, the Vision Fund provided funding for infrastructure improvements throughout the Northern Plains Commerce Center. That's important because ultimately that is where some money came back to the Vision Fund. In 2024, I believe, in early 2024, the Vision Fund committee asked or requested the City Commission transfer some of those funds over from the Northern Plains Commerce Fund back to the Vision Fund. When the Northern Plains Commerce Center was created and lots were sold within Northern Plains Commerce Center, the proceeds of those funds didn't come back to the Vision Fund. They went into the Northern Plains Commerce Fund. And so their request was made and granted to provide some additional funding to the Vision Fund. I think that that's an important key thing that's not on this slide, but something that we have talked a lot about at this table, and will continue to talk about. So the Vision Fund had traditionally been allocated sales tax dollars to fund the fund throughout its inception up until about 2011. After 2011, it has not received ongoing revenue, and so the fund just sat stagnant, and it wasn't utilized for a lot of different reasons up until recently, and now that it's being utilized, that's where that request came for some of those Northern Plains Commerce Fund dollars to help fund the fund. And so that's an important piece of information, I think, for you guys to have as well. 2019, the BMDA, the Bismarck Mandan Development Association, and the Bismarck Mandan Chamber of Commerce officially merged to become the Bismarck Mandan Chamber EDC. That's important because previously the BMDA had kind of been the facilitator of applications and promoter, and then thus carried over to the Chamber EDC. And then in 2024, we had kind of a renewed focus on the fund. And a lot of the documents that you have in front of you that I handed out prior to the meeting came out of that kind of refocus and shift in the Vision Fund, if you will. And we'll kind of go through that in later slides. So what can the Vision Fund be used for? So the Vision Fund is a flexible fund. It can be used for actually a lot of different things: reduced interest loans, job creation incentive grants, and other appropriate financial incentives. Essentially, anything that the Vision Fund committee deems necessary, that's what it can be used for. Typically, what we've looked at in probably the last 5 to 7 years is typically been in the form of a loan, just because of that lack of ongoing revenue into the fund. But that's not to say that it has to be that way. You guys make the decision. You guys make the recommendation to the City Commission. The City Commission ultimately gives it a thumbs up or a thumbs down if they agree or don't. But ultimately, the decision comes from you guys as to what you want to offer, what you want to look at. And I think that's another important piece to make, a key point to make is there's nothing to say that we can't develop programs where we feel like there's a need in the community to fulfill. You see communities across the state develop programs out of their economic development incentive funds to help needs in the community. And so I think that's definitely a key point. You can see up there: relocate, start, expand, all of those things. Obviously, we're trying to grow businesses in this community, so any of those things, whether it's moving here, growing here, or starting here, the Vision Fund can help out. Typically, the purpose or the goal of the fund are kind of those bullet points there. We're looking to create new jobs, retain and enhance existing jobs, serving an unmet or an undermet need. So what does the community need that is currently not being fulfilled? We're trying to fill those gaps in needs in the community. Expand the community sales and property tax base. Obviously, this is a tax-funded fund, and so how are we providing ROI back to the community and back to the citizens? Increasing capital investment, improving entrepreneurial climate, and improving the quality of life for community members, and expanding the financial base of the community overall. One of the major uses for the fund, and I'll try to stay out of the weeds if I can on this, because this program can get complicated a bit, but one of the main purposes or uses of the funds traditionally over the life of the fund has been for the local match of a program through the Bank of North Dakota called PACE or Flex PACE. Essentially, PACE and Flex PACE are the exact same thing. The only thing different between PACE and Flex PACE is PACE is more focused on what we call primary sector businesses. So those businesses, like the application that you're going to see today, those businesses that are adding value to something. So, manufacturing a product or brewing a beer or whatever, adding value to something and generating new wealth for the community or new wealth for the state. The state of North Dakota, the state's Department of Commerce actually certifies primary sector businesses throughout the state of North Dakota. And once that business is certified a primary sector business, it allows them to access other programs like the PACE versus the Flex PACE. The Flex PACE is for those non-primary sector businesses. PACE is for primary sector businesses, and there's different maximums and things like that go along with it. Essentially, what the PACE and Flex PACE program is an interest buy down program. So what happens is a project like the one you're going to hear from today goes in to meet with their lead lender. They sit down with their lead lender. The project and lender work together to apply for through the Bank of North Dakota for a PACE or a Flex PACE loan. The Bank of North Dakota participates in that loan and provides a buy down on the overall interest. So if the bank suggests or provides let's say a 7% interest rate, the Bank of North Dakota can buy that interest rate down. The bank still gets paid the suggested interest rate, and the Bank of North Dakota and the local community provides that subsidy to basically buy that rate down from 7% down to, let's say, 3%. And so that's what the project, like you're going to see today, that's what's happening within that program. So when the program was created, the Bank of North Dakota said, "Yep, we'll provide funding for that interest buy down, but we ask that the local communities have some skin in the game." And so they require that the local community provides a match. In Bismarck's case, it's 35%. So of the total buy down, the Bank of North Dakota provides 65%, and Bismarck, in this case, the Vision Fund, provides 35%. That money then gets all put together and goes into an escrow account at the Bank of North Dakota. As the project pays the note down through the lead lender, those dollars are then subsidized back to the project. So the project's going to make their payment as if they're paying a 7% traditional note. They'll make that payment at that rate. The lead bank will turn around, say, "Bank of North Dakota, project's made that payment. Please give us the buy down amount, whatever that rate buy down amount is." The Bank of North Dakota then turns around, takes it out of that escrow account, and sends it back to the bank for the project and the bank to use as they see fit. The local match, that's typically what we see for projects, is that local match piece of the PACE and Flex PACE. So it's important that you guys kind of understand how that program works, because that's the bulk of what the projects that you're going to see. There are other options to get that local match. It's not just the Vision Fund that companies have to go to get that local match. There's an organization called the Lewis and Clark Development Group over in Mandan. They have a few revolving loan funds that projects can utilize to get that fund, or those funds, those local match funds. And so the Vision Fund traditionally has been, I think, very intentional and specific about the types of projects that they utilize the dollars for, knowing that there is a backstop for projects, that this isn't a if the Vision Fund says no, then they can't access the program type of deal. They can still access the program, they just have to do it through a different mean.
Question, Nathan.
Yep.
We have said no to a number of projects recently. Do you have record of any of them actually going and seeking the funding from the Lewis and Clark Group?
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, Committee Member Peterson, so the three most recent ones that were denied at the Vision Fund Committee level, all three of them went on to access Lewis and Clark Development Group for that local match. So yeah, to answer your question, yep, all three of the most recent denials all went through that process and all were approved at that level and did receive the funding through that level. Now there is some nuances to utilizing the local match through the Lewis and Clark Development Group. It typically, and I won't get too far into the details at this meeting, but it typically is not as beneficial for the project to go through Lewis and Clark Development Group as it is to go through the Bismarck Vision Fund. So just keep that in mind as well. I think I covered, yep. And so this right here is just kind of a graphic about how that works, and it might be a little bit small to read, but you see on the left-hand side, you see the PACE, and as I mentioned, the primary sector businesses. On the right-hand side, the flex space and non-primary sector businesses. Essentially, the projects are meeting with their banker, they're talking with us at the Chamber EDC, they're going through the application process, they're coming to you. You either say yes or no. You can also have the option to table the project and kick it to a second Vision Fund meeting. That's also an option for you if you want to see additional information or get additional narrative or whatever. You can also do that. But ultimately, they go to the City Commission for the final approval. The City Commission ultimately gets the final approval on those projects. The only difference between the PACE and the flex space as far as the Bismarck Vision Fund Committee is concerned is this scoring matrix that we'll cover in just a little bit. Flex pace projects, as of earlier in 2024, are now required to go through this scoring matrix process, which I'll cover here at the end. So I mentioned when we were talking about the pace, when the Bank of North Dakota provides their 65%, and the Bismarck Vision Fund provides their 35%. That 35% that's provided by the Bismarck Vision Fund, as going back to, I think, 2017 or 2018, has been in the form of a loan. So that match, that local match that the Vision Fund is providing, has to be paid back by the project, which I think is an important key point to make. These aren't just, blank checks that we're writing out to companies. There's some accountability and some repayment that goes along with getting these dollars. And so how that loan works is the Chamber EDC staff, City of Bismarck, and here's where it gets a little bit more confusing, because the City of Bismarck and the Chamber EDC also use Lewis and Clark Development Group to help us draft the loan docs and service the loan for that loan portion. So they're kind of getting it. If it goes to the Vision Fund or doesn't, they still are involved in the project. Typically, the terms are negotiable, and I'll go through that in the application. The terms are ultimately decided upon and recommended by this table, and provided a recommendation to the City Commission. The repayment of the loan, now this is on the local match, the repayment of that local match loan cannot start until the buy down is over. So in the project that you'll see today, typically you'll see an amortization schedule that's attached to the application showing the buy down, kind of how the buy down works, and buy down amounts. That will show you how long that buy down is going to last. The repayment of the local match cannot start until that buy down is over. Typically, the rate that's been charged to the projects is 2%. Of that 2%, 1% goes back to Lewis and Clark. This is a requirement by Lewis and Clark Development Group in order to service the loan ongoing. They require a 1%, and then there's a 1% interest that's charged that goes back to the Vision Fund. That's paid by the project. And then Lewis and Clark Development Group monitors the loan. They set up a tickler so that they'll notify the project when the payments need to start being made back to the city, and then once they receive the payments, then they send that money back to the city to be put back into the Vision Fund. Well, this is really hard to see now. So this is just real quickly. This is just the Chamber EDC's role in all of this. You might you'll see me a lot with Vision Fund requests. So our role is really to be the marketing arm for the Vision Fund to help promote the Vision Fund to community stakeholders, to bankers, to projects, and the like. We typically meet with the companies prior to the application. Meet with the companies and the bankers to just kind of walk them through all of that is going on, help facilitate the application, and provide guidance throughout that process. We present, just like we will today, we'll present the applications to the Vision Fund and to the City Commission. And then once the approval is made, the thumbs up is given by the City Commission, then we jump in and start to coordinate with the lead bank, with Bank of North Dakota, with Lewis and Clark Development Group, with the City of Bismarck, and with the project. As the project starts to get to the closing date, to help make sure the loan docs are there, there's some docs obviously that the Bank of North Dakota needs to have signed. There's just a lot of moving parts that we have to coordinate and work with up to closing. And then once closing happens, then we assist in that loan document signing and money transfer. We have to get the money from the city to the Bank of North Dakota, and we're typically involved in that process as well. And then make certain the Vision Fund dollars are being achieved, or the goals are being achieved, and the funds are being utilized for the true purpose of the fund. And we'll kind of cover that in some of the guideline stuff here. So now on to the 3 documents that I handed out here, and I won't go line by line through all of these, but I did want to draw your attention just to a couple of things. So we'll start here with the application. It just says Bismarck Vision Fund application at the top of the page. If you go to page 3 in the application, this is obviously just a blank application. Just want to draw your attention to this. A lot of the first couple pages is just business information, and you'll see the amount of vision funds requested on that very first page. But that page 3 really kind of gets into the meat of the project. And we ask some very specific questions within that page 3 to really kind of determine what is the community benefit of the project. And so that's where a lot of the meat will come from in terms of what the project is providing. They're also required to provide a 1 to 2 page narrative that really dives into the business itself, and so you can kind of glean some stuff from that as well. And then on the bottom of page 4, just another piece here to draw attention to. This is something that the Chamber EDC staff provides the recommendation on. This is by no means set in stone. This is what you guys have to do. This is just simply a recommendation from the Chamber EDC staff. Like I said, it's ultimately your all decision and to provide a recommendation on what you want that loan to look like. And so this was put into the application as just kind of a recommendation to you all to say, here's what we would recommend the terms of that loan be for that local match piece. Questions or thoughts on the application? I'll jump into that scoring matrix that I mentioned. So it just has the City of Bismarck logo with the City of Bismarck Flex-Based Application Scoring Matrix. So this was something that was developed with the assistance of the Vision Fund Committee, looking for some specific information that they thought would be beneficial and to help make sure that the best ROI was being realized for the City of Bismarck. And so you can read through it, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But it's really just about, what is the community impact? How are we making sure that we're realizing the kind of the best bang for our buck type of deal? And so, how many jobs are created? What are the wages that these new jobs are being paid? What's the overall cost of the project? Is this filling an unmet or an undermet need in the community? All of those things are extremely important. When we put this scoring matrix together, and you can see on the very last page, on page 3, about in the middle of the page there, you'll see some categories here. The counsel back from the Vision Fund Committee when we put this together was, this is not meant to be a yes or no document. It's not meant to be, if you score over 9, then it means yes. If you don't, then it means no. That's not what the Vision Fund the Vision Fund committee was looking for. They were just looking for some help, some assistance in looking at what is the community impact. And so we put just some categories together for the scores. And so you see there, if the project would score 7 or less, it's unlikely. If it scores between 8 and 9, minimal. 10 to 11 is adequate, and 12 to 14 is more likely. Again, just because you score high doesn't mean that it's an automatic yes, and just because you score low doesn't mean it's an automatic no. And projects that score the same number, one could potentially get recommended approval, and one might not. That's totally conceivable. This is just simply used as a tool for you all to kind of better understand community impact to the project. Questions or thoughts for me on that? And then the last document I'll cover here is the Vision Fund guidelines. Again, not going to read you line by line here, but I did highlight a couple of pieces within the guidelines just to draw your attention to it. That first one on the very first page, in that first paragraph, just talks about the primary purpose, so you better understand the primary purpose of the Vision Fund. In that second highlighted sentence, it talks again just about the Vision Fund is meant to be flexible, and you all get to make the decision on what that means, right? It doesn't just have to be this or that. We can be flexible with this. We can make it look however you want it to look. Again, that third highlighted point talks about the Vision Fund's participation in the PACE or the Flex Space, how that participation is in the form of a loan, and how a Flex Space project utilizes that scoring matrix and helping to determine eligibility. On the second page, that very first highlighted portion in the second page, what was that? It talks about how the project comes to you all to receive consideration. You can make the decision to recommend approval, denial, or you can table it and ask for additional information at a second meeting. You don't have to say yes or no. It can be we're going to wait on it. We want to hear more. This second highlighted bullet, or the second highlighted sentence in the guidelines, is something new that was put into the guidelines when they were redone here just recently, and that is each Vision Fund committee meeting will provide an opportunity for interested parties to make oral presentations, either opposing or supporting applications on the agenda. It's not a public comment period, but it does. We do ask if there's anyone in the audience or online that wants to speak in support or oppose the project. That third highlighted bullet point just says that once the approval is given at the city commission table, the clock starts ticking. The project has 12 months to access the funds, and I think in 9 months they get a reminder saying, "Hey, this is still out here." And then 12 months, if nothing is agreed upon by the Vision Fund and/or City Commission, then the agreement for Vision Funds is null and void. The project has to start all over again and reapply, go through the whole process again. The Vision Fund does have the ability to extend that deadline if it wishes, and so you'll see on that internal use box and on that application, you'll see a closing date box down there. I'll typically try to get an idea from the banker and the project when that project will be closing. That way, you all have that discretion to say, "Hey, this isn't." We ran into that with Cloverdale when we provided funding to Cloverdale. It took 3 years for that thing to close for a lot of different reasons, and so if it's going to be extended out there, this body has the ability to say, "You know what? We're going to extend it out. You have 36 months instead of 12 or whatever." And then that on page 3, that very last highlighted point there is just talking about the chamber EDC reviewing projects on a regular basis. So on an annual basis, we'll kind of review the projects that are outstanding. We'll work with the Bank of North Dakota and Lewis and Clark to get the information that we can. A lot of times we can't get. I mean, there's Bank Secrecy Act information that we just can't get. But we'll try to get what we can to provide an update to you all, so that you're privy to, where those projects are at in terms of repayment. I tried to go through that really fast.
You
But
did a great job, Nathan. Thank you very much for your work on this committee and with all the projects and with me in the past and all of that. So really appreciate it. So
I do have one quick question in regards to that. Historically speaking, has Vision Fund received financial information from projects and looked at that, or do we typically just rely upon, especially as it relates to PACE and Flex PACE with Bank of North Dakota, do we just rely upon their approval? Obviously, we're working with taxpayer funds here, so we got to be, stewards of that and make sure we're giving money in the right situation. So do we typically look at that as a committee, or do we just rely upon Bank of North Dakota and all that stuff?
yeah, so Chairman Freilich, committee member Stugelmeyer. So in the past, there is a requirement in the application that if it's not for a PACE or a Flex PACE deal, a loan, that financials are required, and there will be some underwriting that'll have to be done. I don't know if you want me doing it. I mean, I can do it. We would have to figure out what that looked like. I would say on the projects that I've worked on, it's typically been for the local match, and we're relying on the bank and the Bank of North Dakota to provide that underwriting. Quite honestly, I don't think that we can provide near the level of underwriting that and financial analysis that a bank could provide, and Bank of North Dakota could provide. So typically the Vision Fund, as it pertains to those types of projects, the Vision Fund is just looking at, does this fit the parameters of the program, and not looking at the viability of the project itself.
That makes sense.
And with that, our funds are sitting there, but they're not allocated until those payments are made. And if that business or entity stops doing anything, all of our funds come back, and they are just sitting in that escrow account, right?
Yeah, that's a key point to make too. Like I mentioned with the explanation of the PACE and Flex PACE program, when those dollars get put into that escrow account at the Bank of North Dakota, they're only allocated as the project makes the payment. So if they never make a payment and the bank says, you know what, we're done, and they default, the project defaults, all of those dollars, or a prorated portion if they do make payments, all of those dollars come back to the city. And so the city is not out that money if the project ends up in default.
Very good. Any other questions from any of the members? Then I will think we'll move on to item number 6, consider the application of Sura LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You get to,
Can I ask one question?
Sure, yeah.
This organization helped me with a project last spring for my North Dakota Envirothon. Do I have to remove myself from voting, or remove myself? What do I do?
That's a good question, because I also know 2 of the owners, just not on a professional level, but as a personal level. So, full disclosure. So,
Committee members, in the past, the indicator for recusing yourself from the conversation would be if you have a pecuniary interest in the business operations of the group. What I have also seen is when there is a professional business relationship that is often disclosed at the table as to what degree that is, if your fellow committee members feel that you can still remain impartial and it is not impacting the outcome of the project, you would be welcome to stay if it feels that way as well. So you have a couple options.
all right, thanks, Jason. I guess how does the group feel? I guess any objections, or do we want to go through discussion on the project and hear the project first?
Yeah, I think my only question to you would be like, can you be impartial? And if you can, then I feel like, especially with 2 new committee members, I think it's important to have some long-standing knowledge too in how we make decisions.
I think typically, well, I know, Vision Fund, previously had I'm a banker and I work at Starian, and I know, they're working with one of the lenders here at Starian. So I think historically in situations like that, how has that been handled?
Got trifecta.
Committee members, I guess I'm not personally familiar with a situation where we've had a lender with a potential conflict. I guess Mr. Stiegelmeier, it might be your professional discretion, what your situation might be. I'm not entirely certain what your role within the bank is, but obviously the bank has an interest in the business that they are supporting.
Right, and, my thought process was that I would not vote on this particular thing. I mean, I think I could be part of the conversation, but not vote, would be my suggestion.
I think I could have a conversation and I feel I could vote. I mean, I worked with them for about 4 months and they helped me or something about information, but I don't know the ins and outs of their business. They simply provided information about renewable energy. I don't know how the business runs.
Right, but you're not gonna benefit from, you wouldn't personally benefit from this or professionally benefit from
I would
what our
be
decision
fine
is.
with your vote, to be honest, so, I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, Nathan, I'll let you go.
I'll take it away.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now that we've got that all cleared up. I can't vote either, so I
Do
just
we
wanna put
have
that
a
out there.
scoring matrix for this project? Is that,
So this project here, Mr. Chairman, is a PACE project. This was certified a primary sector company, and the primary sector certification letter is a part of your packet here. So this is a primary sector company that's applying for the PACE program. So it does not require the scoring matrix. So you have in front of you an application for Sura LLC. That is the real estate holding company. The operating company is Lightspring LLC. I won't get too into the weeds on the project or the business itself. We have representatives from the business here to kind of go through that with you. What they are looking for is the local match on the PACE program through the Bank of North Dakota, up to the amount of $85,000. And so we have in the past put an exact dollar amount on these. That has kind of made things a bit tricky because if closing dates change, payment dates change, interest rates change, that does change that number, that buy down amount number. So in this case, we're asking for up to $85,000. It won't go over that, but it gives the bank and the project a little bit of leeway there to make sure that we get the right dollar amount for the project. The project is looking to construct a new building at the project address shown there, that 3204 Airway Avenue. This would be a brand new facility for the project. The project currently doesn't have a physical location, kind of in between the owners themselves, and so this would be a new facility for the project itself. I don't know if there's anything else that you probably. Oh, I'll just quickly go through the loan suggestions or recommendations, I guess, for the local match. We have in here again up to $85,000, but not to exceed the maximum required by the Bank of North Dakota. That 2% interest rate, with again 1% going to the Vision Fund and 1% going to the Lewis and Clark Development Group. The recommended term of the loan would be 180 months, so that would be the maximum 120 months of buy down, so 10 years of buy down, and then 60 months of principal and interest repayment. Again, if you'll recall, they're not able to make payments on the loan until the buy down is over, and so that's where you get that 180 months at. There is a fee required by Lewis and Clark Development Group at closing, which is a 1% fee. The security requirement being suggested or recommended is a UCC filing on all business assets. and personal guarantees of all owners. Again, the payment term 60 months. The payment that would work out to a payment of approximately $1,500 per month. And then the estimated closing date, we're looking at a early to midsummer closing date on the loan. If there's no questions for me, I'll bring up the representatives from the project to talk to you specifically about the project, and then if there's any questions after that about the request, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Nathan.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for taking time to consider this for the Vision Fund. And the word vision came to us a lot before we started this company because North Dakota was dead last in solar and nationwide out of all 50 states, and we're dead last in energy efficiency and a lot of these automations, and we know it's coming. And so we said, okay, how do we want the future to be? North Dakota's in the spring right now of the new energy future. So light spring, we'd like it to use the light. It's a sunshine state. And let's envision the future. What's the summer of North Dakota energy going to be like? And we said, well, we want it to be North Dakota first. Do we want a bunch of Californians here and Texans here and Floridians here teaching us how to do solar or doing all the solar for us is the typical model, bring in people from out of state, very low income, and then they disappear, and we don't own it. And we said, no, we have an amazing opportunity. This is, 6 or 7 years ago, we started this conversation. We actually started at UND 20-some years ago. Ryan and I were UND grads. We're both from Bismarck. And so it was all about, we're all from here. We want the money to stay here. We bank here. Let's do this in a North Dakota way, and let's keep all our money in the state. And this is a building in Fargo, PRX manufacturing building. Great install. This was our first big commercial one after doing several smaller ones, building our way up. And, we got guys from all over the state here working together. And what do? We do commercial solar, we do community solar, we do a lot of education, a lot of partnering with colleges, and we do a little bit of residential, and we also do a lot of technology. But the way this company started is we said, how do we want this new energy to start? Well, we need to start working on it. And people were coming to us and saying, hey, I heard you're starting a company. We want solar. We said, oh, no, we have no solar installers in North Dakota. How do we find somebody to install it? So we got to train them. Let's find people. And a friend at United Tribes stepped up and said, hey, we'll donate the space. You donate the services and the education. You bring in someone from out of state to help teach you, but they're going to teach us to do it ourselves. So we had the first training, and we met some of our greatest partners. Our general manager, actually, Wes Davis, we met at that first training. He's the geothermal expert and wind expert, and now he's adding solar to the mix. Joe McNeil, who now is Sage Development. All these folks were at that first training. We started talking, well, what can we do? They said, well, let's do a solar-powered powwow. So we had a second training where we built something together. It was a mobile educational unit that they can take and teach schools at STEM locations. And you're teaching math, you're teaching science, and you're powering things 100% from the sun with a large battery bank in there. And then we said, well, we got to do something bigger. So let's power this whole building. So we did our third training, and that was right down here, the Skill Center. So this was a very large battery system, and those panels tilt during the two seasonal directions. And again, we did it in a North Dakota way. We had North Dakota students, North Dakota teachers, and all of us training and building this together, keeping all of our money here. And this is this summer. Fast forward 5 years later, we did 10 projects, and three of the folks in the photos are Standing Rock members that were apprentices, and 3 of our folks were one-on-one with them, and I was there as the second wheel to get started and help kick it off. And our whole model is, if we jump down to this way, is let's not build solar for a community. Let's build solar with a community, as a community. So next organization, Indigenized Energy, they said, hey, let's partner together. And Cody was actually instrumental in that first training at United Tribes. And Cody said, this is how we're going to do it in the right way. We're going to take 14 or 20 folks down to Red Cloud Renewables, and we're going to get them trained in the Red Cloud classroom. And then we want to build a project for an elder on Standing Rock, and we want to build it as a community. So these are all community members who went down to Red Cloud, got trained, and then they came and they hired us to help work together and build this for a community, for an elder in the community to help lower their bills. And so that's how we do things. That's why we do things. And Ryan's going to talk a little bit about what we do. And it's not just solar. Our actual name is Lightspring LLC, and it's because we're every energy technology, moving into data centers, moving into battery technology, moving into smart design, smart automation. So all of our installs have monitors, energy monitoring, 24/7, gathering the data. And at United Tribes, 2 of the buildings that we put solar on, when you walk in as a student, you see the production of the solar. So they want to use everything as educational, make everything into a classroom. And hence, that's what also our building is going to be. It's going to be a visual demonstration. So here's another part of an install. That's only a quarter of it that we partnered with NHSC College up in Newtown. And we have many more partners. We'll skip ahead, and I'm going to kick it over to Ryan here to talk about the batteries and other aspects.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you, committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. That was Jim Cambites, by the way, co-founder of Lightspring. He got so excited to start, he didn't even introduce himself. I'm Ryan Warner, also co-founder of Lightspring. He basically wanted to share our story because it kind of explains how we got here today while we're seeking assistance from the city of Bismarck and the Vision Fund. And so we have lots of experience with energy technology here in North Dakota, collaborating with all kinds of interesting folks, doing lots of interesting projects. And so we've gained a lot of experience in what works in North Dakota and what we think our particular industry needs going forward. And that's why we come here to help, to ask for your help, specifically to build a building. And so I'm going to talk about what the building is needed for. And it's really 2 angles we like to look at. There's the micro level of batteries. We want to bring battery manufacturing and assembly to Bismarck. And then from the macro level, we want to help kind of the grid get to the next stage of development. So from the macro level, what we're seeing right now, I think we've all heard about it. There's a massive demand for electricity coming. There's data centers, there's AI, there's all kinds of there's the move towards electrification, EV cars, all kinds of different ways that we're going to start increasing the way and the amount of electricity that we consume all the time. And so there are really 2 ways to fix that solution from an engineering standpoint. There is the centralized power plant model where you create more generation, and to do that you need to create a bunch of transmission lines. And so that's a big infrastructure development project. It takes 10 to 15 years, and that's on a good day. Sometimes it can take longer. Sometimes it doesn't happen. You can't get everyone to agree where the right route is or where to build stuff, and stuff just gets really bogged down. And so there's a second option, which is kind of the non-wires alternative, which is instead of thinking about centralized development, let's have a distributed development idea where the network starts to invest in the individual nodes. And so that's where batteries come in. Batteries are a way to create a new lever that you can pull to either provide energy to the grid or to help balance out the consumption of electricity by consuming when the grid has excess electricity. And so from that, we're thinking batteries are going to play a huge, huge role in the next 15 years as that grid starts to move to the grid of the 21st century. And so that's the macro level. This is why we think it's a good business idea. And then from the micro level, we have our experience. So we've installed all kinds of different batteries. We got Tesla Powerwalls. We've got Generac power cells. We've got Home Grid. We've got Enphase batteries. We've basically installed all the battery technologies for our customers over the last 5 years or so, and we figured out what we like. We figured out what our customers like. We figured out what doesn't work, what's hard to install, what's easy to install. And so we've taken this experience and said, what is really helpful for our customers is an easy install with low material cost that we can do quick and that is easy to use. And so that's the kind of product that we're trying to bring to market right now, which would be a very easy to use, easy to install battery. And to do that, it's basically a product development story. And right now we're in the very early stages of that product development. And we're working with another local North Dakota company to help us do the engineering and the procurement of our raw materials. And we're just in the process of signing our agreements to get that engineering underway. Once it begins, we're basically going to have basically iterative projects where we bring in modules, we bring in battery enclosures, we bring in our battery controllers, and start to assemble these products here in Bismarck and get them ready for installation. And as they get installed, we don't want to bring a battery to a resident and say, well, here's some backup power. The grid goes out, you can run some of your loads. That's important, but there's also the network idea where is there a way to use this infrastructure in an aggregate manner to support the grid? So on top of the hardware, we have the idea of pairing it with software where you can deploy in aggregate to times when there's major demand on the grid, we could program all of our batteries to deploy en masse and kind of reduce the demand for everybody, bringing down electricity costs for everybody. And this is an idea called a virtual power plant. And we included this idea within the materials that you have in front of you. And that's kind of where the hardware meets the software development. So we have this hardware idea. We're going to build a battery, put our name on it, put it into people's houses. And then we're going to have some software to help kind of use this infrastructure intelligently and help the grid, help everybody. And so as we come to you, we're looking for, how can we get to that next stage as a company that's just not installers, but we're a product developer. We have a line of income that is not based on projects, but based on services. And the service is a software service paired with our own hardware. And that's what we're here to talk about. So we have all kinds of content. I could continue to go on. I know this is supposed to be around 15 minutes. I'm going to pause there and see if we have any questions. I know this is a lot of information to throw at you guys. Any questions?
Got any questions by the committee?
No.
Who do you envision servicing? Like people all over our state, South Dakota, Montana? What are your goals?
We're going to start regionally because that's where our experience base is, but this is a product that could go national. We're basically trying to lower the install costs and the material costs for batteries. So right now, depending on the kind of battery manufacturer you go with and the installer you go with, you're looking at maybe $15,000 to $20,000 for a partial home backup. We'd like to drop that cost below $10,000 and make it an easier install with lower material costs. And so we're going to start in North Dakota. We're here in North Dakota. We know our market. But at some point, I think we can go nationwide with the product. There's lots of battery products out there, so maybe that's a dream at this stage, but we think we can do it. So yes, it could go nationwide.
And you also said early project stage. What kind of timeline are you at for product development?
Great question. Right now, we're just in the midst of coming up with our minimal viable product. So basically, it's the one that we start on and start testing and bringing it into the lab and seeing, does it do what we want to do from a technical standpoint? Are the software controls the way we want them? And then we go back to our engineering team and say, we got to fix this, we got to improve the software here. And so we're just in that iterative stage. And so how long does it take from there to when we have a product to sell? And that we're looking at about 12 to 18 months from today. So we have the 6 to 12 months of iteration. We figure out this is the product we want to start with, and then we go into the manufacturing stage. They start shipping the modules, the enclosures, all the cabling, all the smart controls to our, hopefully our building, and then we assemble and install. So about 1 to 2 years, I'd say, until we're market ready. And so, we put some job projections in here as well. So we're going to have the assembly team, probably around 4 full-time jobs, and then maybe a part-time assistant as well, or admin assistant for that assembly component. And then as we bring up the software team, it's going to be another 4 full-time jobs with 1 part-time potential job as well. We're kind of doing this in stages, so it's going to start with hardware first, and then we're going to get an off-the-shelf software solution. And then once the hardware's out in the wild, so to speak, then we'll start to bring in our own internal software development team to figure out what our customers like and don't like, and start iterating on that as well.
I guess one question I have, I know you do a lot of grant projects here and, on a lot of reservations and tribal institutions and stuff like that. With new administration and a new president and maybe a new directive with energy goals for this country, if those grants don't happen anymore or whatever, like how viable are you guys on the projects and stuff like that?
We're extremely viable. Right now, we're the only real solar installer in North Dakota. We've got a wealth of battery installation experience as well. So we've continued to have projects that are not grant related throughout our 6 years. And currently, we have a couple million of projects under contract that have the funds secured on the grant side. So we're optimistic that our grant projects will continue to go forward, the ones that haven't been encumbered, and we'll continue to write grants and work with the new administration to start getting the grant dollars out the door on whatever projects they deem fit to go forward.
Are the batteries just for, is it a battery, or does it have to go along with solar panels? Maybe I missed that.
Great question. No, they're a standalone product. So the way we think about it is you compare solar with batteries and it's great, or you can just have batteries and it's also great because you can provide backup power to your house should the grid go down. You can also participate in the virtual power plant idea and potentially monetize those batteries and help the grid. So yes, they don't have to be paired with solar. They can be, but they are also a standalone product. So they can go in pretty much any houses. And that reminds me as well, we didn't mention the battery chemistry in our application, but these are lithium iron phosphate batteries. They're the safest kinds of lithium batteries in terms of fire and handling and potential toxic chemical spills and stuff like that. These are the most safe on the market. And, that's a huge priority for us, both for our workers and our customers, to keep everything safe and help keep things on the up and up.
What's the timeline for the project to be built?
For the building to be built?
Yeah, how long will it take?
The building is, at this point, ready to go. We're just trying to get the financing underway. So if everything works out the way we like it, I think we're looking at, as soon as it starts to warm up, to start the real construction, and then hopefully finish by midsummer, and then move in date shortly thereafter, and then we start kind of iterating on our product at that point. And a little bit about the building, I don't think we had a chance to talk about that. Like Jim was talking about, we want it to be kind of a living laboratory. So we have all these great ideas, but people are like, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't really understand it or get it. And so what we found is that if you take them and bring them to something they can see and touch and feel, then it's much easier to understand. And that's how we want to use this building, is a way to bring in customers, students, new hires, and be like, this is how we designed it. It's all electric. We're using geothermal, we're using solar PV, we're using solar thermal. And we've designed this building to be one of the most sustainable buildings in Bismarck, and as a way to teach people that this can be done in this climate. And if you have enough technology, automation, AI, and just take a little bit extra time to plan on the front end, you can do a lot of cool things. And so that's kind of how we want the building to kind of represent what LightSpring is about.
Any other questions? Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I guess if the committee has any discussion or anybody want to make a motion on approval or disapproval, I guess, or a not approval of not going forward?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just one clarification brought to my attention in the application. There was some mention of these funds being used to apply for the flex space, and then some verbiage about applying for PACE. This is just one application for one funding. There's not a flex space and a PACE application. It's just the PACE application.
Thanks for the clarification.
I'll motion to approve the LightSpring LLC application.
got a motion to approve. Do we have a second? I would second. Any discussion on that? Further discussion? Since committee member Joel here is recusing himself, it'll be just the three of us. Mayor Schmidt is out today, so if we call a roll, or do I just ask for here? Is it a roll call? Yeah. Oh, okay. And if we went, I guess we, yeah, I thought we did the roll, yeah.
Member Peterson?
Yes.
Member Scher?
Yes.
Chair Freilich?
Yes. And that looks like we have a motion passed for that, so congratulations, good luck on your project. I guess we'll move on to number 7, the Etai Corporation update.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quickly, you have the email in your packet, but the Etai Corporation is no longer in need of the Vision Fund approval that was provided, and so they've rescinded their application, and that has been taken off the books. Just wanted to, it was just kind of an FYI type of deal for you all that's no longer on the books, and you can see the email in there from the Bank of North Dakota.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any other business they'd like to bring up? Or with that, we'll be adjourned. Thank you.